Welcome to Scoop One on our Friday night live edition. A little bit later, I'll let you guys watch the basketball game. Sad the basketball season has come to an end. Very excited for football season though, but it was a tragic end for our basketball boys. They fought hard. Referees were a little below average, but you can't leave it in the hands of the officials, is what it is. The Michigan article dropped today. We've been teasing that for about 2 weeks now, and of course we were right. We had it first, so. Is that the first bomb dropped on Warde Manuel? Warde Manuel looks like a dead man walking. Juwan Howard is already dead. He was off today by Michigan, let go. As we projected last week, again, we had this article first. We had it nailed to the cross. There's also a lot of things they had left out. So this will be a series of articles, it looks like. So that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys kicking it with us on your Friday night. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Every time we go live, we'll get a little alert. This a little bit later. Normally we go at 7. We did not want to go against the basketball game last night. That was not great for us. So we wanted to make sure that you guys were all ready to go to watch this. So we appreciate it as always. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Shout out what are your weekend plans. And our merchandise store is absolutely going crazy right now, beyond our wildest expectations. So thank you for all of you that have bought Buckeye Scoop merchandise. Our store is so open for another week. Rep, R-E-P, the T-H-E, scoop, SCOOP.com. Repthescoop.com is the link. Jump on there. It is in the bio down below. So after this episode is posted, you'll be able to click on it and go right to the store. But the merchandise is very high quality, very good stuff, Nike stuff. You guys will love it. So again, we're excited. Thank you so much for all of you that have already bought stuff. We appreciate you. That being said, Nevada, we didn't have a pre-show because we're watching the basketball game. You want to talk basketball? You want to talk about the Michigan article?
Well, let's talk basketball first, man. And I really, I don't like complaining about the refereeing in these games. I know refereeing's hard, but boy, those guys were bad tonight. They were so bad, and they let that number 0 get away with just driving wildly into the lane over and over and over again, and then they don't call him. They never call him for a charge. And then he assaults Zedke on that putback dunk. They don't call him on that one. That would have been his 5th after he ran the guy over after that. I mean, wow. I felt bad. I really felt bad for the Ohio State basketball team. I hadn't really connected with the team until recently, watched their effort here during this thing. And I got to give Diebler credit. I mean, the biggest of it, he had these guys playing defense, man. They were playing defense. They were playing hard. They were playing together. And I thought he did a heck of a job. Is it enough to be the head coach at Ohio State? I mean, I don't know. But he had them playing hard. And this team was dead. They didn't look anything like the team that was 2-9 or 2-11. I don't even know what that streak was where they just kind of quit on Holtman. But I mean, I felt bad. I wanted to see more of Ohio State basketball, and sometimes you come up a little bit short. But I'd rather get blown out by 25 than lose that way, because I really believe that we're better than Illinois and should have won that game, but wasn't to be. So you got to move on. So now let's talk about Michigan. Now, the greatest thing about this Michigan today with the Michigan thing is everybody's like, all the Michigan fans are, oh, everybody knew Juwan Howard's getting fired. It's like, dude, your guy, John Bacon, who's like the mouthpiece for Michigan, like the ultimate Michigan insider, is literally quoted 2 days ago as saying Warde Manuel is going back and forth on flying Juwan Howard, and we're not sure, and we're now in the category of nobody knows anything. That was literally 48 hours ago. And we've been telling you for at least 2 weeks that this was coming down, that Juwan Howard was gone, that there's widespread problems within the basketball program, and the article comes out, and then 9 hours later he's gassed. So I'd like to say that this was a surprise. This wasn't a surprise. Juwan Howard was going down. And for Michigan, this is just the first step. You've lost your head football coach. You've now lost your basketball coach. Next to go is going to be your AD. Then the NCAA is going to hammer you. So for Michigan fans, I just have to laugh. Everything's so obvious after the fact. Oh, of course, everyone knew that Juwan Howard was being fired. Dude, your insiders didn't even know that was going down. So, no, I liked it. I thought the Athletic article today, I didn't think it was particularly well written or particularly well edited, but I thought it was well sourced. I thought the stuff was in there. The facts are just chilling when you look at that. We had linked another article about the hockey program. I think there's obviously the big thing on this whole scandal is the facts on the basketball program are known. The facts on the hockey program were covered by the Detroit Free Press about a year ago. How they had another separate independent investigation by a law firm, finding all sorts of irregularities and all sorts of problems within the hockey thing. It's about Warde Manuel knowing about this stuff and working with them actively to cover that stuff up. And that's in writing. And that was uncovered through a Freedom of Information Act thing. And I'm not going to go any further than that because I don't want to burn the source. But what I can tell you is that's the scandal on this thing, is what Warde Manuel knew, what Warde Manuel did to cover up these widespread problems in both basketball, hockey, and other women's sports, including assaults, sexual assaults, and other problems that they had within the program. And that's why there's people on the Michigan Board of Trustees they've got the knives out. They're going after Warde Manuel. The program's in trouble. And that's what's going to happen. So today was the first domino of many dominoes to fall. We said it was going to be. We even called the time. And I hate timing this because, when you say this week and it gets to Friday, people are, oh, what happened? It was going to be this week. And it's like, well, it happened. And he's gone. And yeah, a very, very interesting day. Very topical here with basketball being on the front of everybody's mind, but Juwan Howard gone, and it couldn't happen to a worse guy, a worse leader of men than Juwan Howard, because he really is a clown. I mean, as bad as Michigan guys are, Juwan Howard has got to be like right among the worst. And the fact that he was the head coach of their basketball program, what a thug. What a disaster. And I'm glad he's gone. I'm sure there's Michigan fans that are glad he's gone. But I think he was an embarrassment to the program. I think he's an embarrassment to the Big Ten. And good riddance to bad rubbish. And I'm glad he's out of here.
Yeah, it's amazing that he could be so prolific as a basketball player at Michigan, so prolific in the NBA. He made probably over $200 million playing in the NBA. He played like 20 years, and he signed a monster contract with the Heat that got matched by the Washington Bullets back in the day. Huge numbers. And, he takes this Michigan job. He's the coach of the year like 2 years ago, the national coach of the year, Big Ten coach of the year. And then the Titanic gets the iceberg and they go to the bottom of the ocean. That's what they are. And he's a thug. He's an idiot. His kid is an idiot. He raised an idiot. And he's out of a job. I don't know how Michigan could ever be bottom of the Big Ten in basketball. They have more resources than any program in the Big Ten. Maybe sub Ohio State, but honestly, if you put a gun to my head and said who has a bigger donor pool, I'd probably say Michigan. And they came in last. So you have to be absolutely atrocious in your livelihood as a coach to come in last place at Michigan, of all places. Michigan basketball, it's a major brand. It's a top 10 brand, maybe top 5 brand nationally. And to be so atrocious that you're at the bottom of the Big Ten, it's crazy. And then you read this article, and it's literally exactly what we talked about. We talked about on the show last week. We said, look, he got in a fight with the strength coach. Why? Because his kid was acting like a total idiot towards the trainer, towards a PR director. The strength coach told him to not act like an idiot, which again, if you're a strength coach, here's the thing. When you're a coach, you're like a real adult. When you're a player, you're still a kid. Now, I know that every kid who's 18 to 22 plays at a program. He plays, I'm a grown man. I'm a grown man. But as soon as they screw up, oh, well, they're just kids. Oh, kids are going to be kids. Boys are going to be boys. But they're not men until they graduate. Again, they can be 18 to 22, but they're still kids. So, when you've got, his kids screaming at a trainer, berating him, trainer's probably, mid 40s, if not 50 years old. You got a 20-year-old screaming at him like an idiot. The strength coach was totally in the right by defending him and saying, hey, shut up, idiot. And then Juwan Howard comes after the strength coach, which we reported, and is going to physically attack him for standing up for another member of, because again, the trainer is technically a member of Juwan Howard's staff. So the strength coach, who carries a lot of weight, is standing up for the trainer who doesn't carry a ton of weight because the kid is acting like an idiot. And again, if Juwan wasn't a total moron, he would have stood up for the trainer and the strength coach and had his kids stand down and punish him and have him not act like a moron. But, when you're not a real coach, when you're a clown, and then you're also an enabler, like you need to get fired. And again, Warde Manuel, again, we detail the stuff that we know about that hasn't been written by The Athletic, that will be written in the future by multiple sources regarding the hockey program, regarding other stuff in the football program. This was just like a little taste because there are some people like disappointed by this. I'm like, guys, like we know more than maybe The Athletic knows, and the rest of the stuff's all going to come out. So Warde is a dead man walking. But Nevada, what was your reaction when you read this? Because, this seemed like it was literally, I know I use the Titanic thing a lot, the tip of the iceberg in terms of what is going to happen to Michigan. Because I'm like, that's all they wrote. I was like, it'd be like if you got a ton of information, you use 2% of it to make, some sort of a post on BuckeyeScoop.com. Like, what was your reaction when you initially read the Athletic article?
Well, I mean, I thought it was damning. I thought it was like I always put myself in. If I was reading this about Ohio State, how would I feel? And I read it and I was just like, it was it was terrible. It was bad. But again, at the same time, like you said, it's 1/50th of what we know is going on there. It's 1/50th of what we know that the Athletic has. So, for me, my questions are immediately are they being restricted editorially? Are they being restricted legally? Are they going to roll those out as a part of a series? Because the article came out, I was aware of the one author, but they had a second co-author on there, and that thing didn't seem like it needed two authors. So it would seem to me that they're giving kind of co-credit as this thing's probably going to be part of a series. So that's the thing. You never know how these things are going to come. Once they get onto the editor's chopping block, and that's the whole question. But like I said, I didn't think it was particularly well written. It is The Athletic, but I thought the sources and the facts and the thing were really. I mean, just it didn't cast Michigan in a good light, but we've known that all along. And I just think, as I read it, I was just thinking it's amazing that this clown still has his job, and then within hours they fire him, despite John Ubacon talking about how nobody knows it's coming. We're like, no, we knew. John, all you got to do is you just listen to the scoop. We'll give it to you. We'll tell you what's going on because this was pretty short odds. So on the Michigan coaches now, we told you when Harbaugh was going to be leaving. I told you could bet plus 350 Harbaugh to the Chargers, and I went on record with that. And I said, guys, go to your little DraftKings app right now and punch this thing in, and you can make money at plus 350, which is pretty long implied odds. And we've told you on Juwan Howard the same thing. So it's like we've had this thing nailed. They haven't. And let me tell you what, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better here. Much more to come.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've got a track record of just, nailing this stuff. And again, you nailed specifically in early December, hey, Jim Harbaugh is not one for Michigan. Hey, you know what? He's actually going to the LA Chargers. No way he'd ever do that. They could win the championship. They won a championship. Going to the Chargers. Doesn't care. Done deal. He doesn't care about Michigan. Hates Warde Manuel. Hates everybody in the organization. I mean, so it's amazing you had that as early as you did, early December. Because again, guys, like we're sourced up, like in a major way, especially with this Michigan stuff, because the Michigan regents, the Michigan Board of Trustees people hate Warde Manuel. He's done. It's over. When it happens, you guys will be like, damn, I'm glad I listened to Buckeye Scoop because we had it. Again, like Jim Harbaugh, Warde's up there at that. I'll never forget. He's at that the arena celebration and points at Jim. Oh, I'm going to get him a new extension, a new contract. And Jim's like, yeah. And it was done. He was gone. He's going to LA. It was over. It was over in December. But like they put on this facade for whatever reason where it's like, oh yeah, we're still in the program and we're going to move up spring ball because, I mean, I love Jim. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is like my favorite coach ever because he's just so dumb and he just says whatever. He's the master at manipulating the media and manipulating the Michigan fan base because the Michigan fan base, they're as stupid as the Michigan beat. I mean, it's impossible how dumb they are, but they're like, oh, we're going to back up spring ball because we're going to celebrate this national title. I'm like, he's not going to be there for spring football. Are you crazy? He doesn't care about spring football. He's at the LA Chargers. He's trading he's cutting Mike Williams and trading Keenan Allen and renegotiating, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. I mean, he doesn't care about about Michigan. I mean, he had all that done. And the Juwan Howard thing, like we had this article, a week ago, and people were like, "Oh, is it going to drop? Is it going to drop?" It's like, "Oh, it's dropping. It's coming." Sure as can be. We named the publication, the author, named everything because it was already done. And again, it's just a small series. And again, Nevada said this was a 2 author thing, and again, you nailed it when you said how poor the formula was. Like Brandon Quinn and Katie Strang wrote this thing, and I mean, I wrote better papers when I was in 10th grade in remedial literature at Perry High School than this thing was. This thing was atrociously written, but they nailed a lot of the facts. But they left out a lot of the juice. They left out a lot of the football stuff, the hockey stuff, some of the stuff that again, wouldn't have leaked out. But you have to understand, when stuff starts leaking out and it goes to major outlets, it's because the big dogs have changed their course of action towards Warde Manuel. Because as we were told by a great source, the knives are getting sharpened right now. AKA, they're about to stab him in the back. It's about to be ugly. And so how do you do that? You leak stuff like this. Because what does this do? It upsets the wine and cheese crowd. It upsets the wine and cheese Michigan boosters and donors, and they're embarrassed that Juwan Howard's jackknife powerbombing a strength coach, and there's all these other allegations that are really really bad. I don't make light of a head coach fighting on the strength coach, but the stuff other than that is way worse than that. And frankly, nobody's above the brand. The Michigan brand is a major brand, same as Ohio State. When the Trussell stuff started coming down and the people lined up to stab Truss in the back, it was over. There's nothing Truss could do. They didn't give him a day in court. They didn't let him plead his case. They said, look, what we're going to do? You're going to get iced. And this is going to happen with Michigan. And that's why Harbaugh and his entire coaching staff left and went to the National Football League, because they could dodge all this. They could dodge this humiliation. But Juwan Howard didn't meet the same fate. He got whacked. And there's going to be more to come, because Michigan's football program is going to be in the dark ages for a long time after this. Nevada, any thoughts on that before we get into our super chats?
No, I think that's, that was it. I think that now look, the Michigan stuff always keeps on giving. You've got the Tony Alford to Michigan. You've got the Mike Hart to interview for the running back coach job. Why don't we talk about the running back coach job? Because I know people care about that right now. And I know that's something that's topical. The conversations with Gillespie are kind of at an interesting point right now. I think Gillespie can be had but it's money. I think it's all about money. And it's interesting, it'll be interesting to see how far Ohio State is willing to go for a running back's position, to see if it just upsets everything else in their apple cart. But that is the holdup. That's the guy they're waiting on. So I think that he can be had, but it's going to be about money. But, a guy who's kind of come into this in the last 24 hours because of this, I won't say impasse, but I'll say break on those conversations, has been Stan Drayton. And, Stan Drayton is currently the head coach at Temple, making $2.5 million a year, and not having spectacular success at Temple. I think the Temple people are really unhappy with his tenure there, and would be happy to have him kind of move on down the road if they could reach some sort of an amicable settlement and things like that. So what would be your thoughts, Kirk? We haven't talked about this all day. But what would be your thoughts regarding Stan Drayton returning to Ohio State as running backs coach?
I think we could do better, especially if we could get Gillespie from Bama. But I worked with Stan. Again, this is why I'm not an advocate of hiring a running backs coach to be a head coach, because Stan's clearly over his head as a head coach. Again, I know that he's smooth talker, and Urban was the master of preparing guys to be head coaches, because Urban, something he did with Stan a lot when I worked with him was he'd put him in front of the team and make them talk, motivate, talk about the black, removing the black stripe, whatever dumb thing there is. And Stan was okay, but Stan never struck me as a wizard. Thought he was an okay recruiter. He wasn't a grinder. Hated working for Urban. Obviously, it was hilarious because he left Urban at Florida, went to Tennessee, And then he ended up going back to Florida, and he was there. He would have been there with Muschamp. He leaves Muschamp and comes to Ohio State's receivers coach, which was as bad as we talk about any position coach in the history of Ohio State football. Like Stan Drayton coaching the wide receivers in 2011 was the worst coaching job of all time because he never coached wide receivers before. Again, Jim Tressel had to hire a minority, which we understand that's part of the game in football. It's not a racial thing. It's not a racist thing. It's part of the game. We needed to hire a minority. We hired Stan as receivers coach. He never coached receivers in his life, and it looked like it. And we were 120th in our passing offense because, we had Braxton, who was a freshman who didn't know the plays, and Braxton wasn't exactly a grinder. Braxton was pretty lazy as a freshman. And then we had Stan coaching receivers. And, I mean, again, do I hold it against Stan that he took a job when he's from Cleveland and he's from Cleveland. He's an Ohio guy. He comes back to Ohio State. He gets offered a receiver coaching job, which he's never done before. And he took it. And he tried to do it. And I'm sure he watched a couple of YouTube videos on how to coach wide receivers and probably read How to Coach Wide Receivers for Dummies. But, I mean, it was terrible. And that's not me being a hater. I had coaches that were legitimate NFL people talk to me. There were scouts and, personnel guys that I knew really well. And they are like, your receivers coach is awful. The worst we've ever seen. He has no idea what he's doing. But, he took the gig. And again, it'd be like if Ohio State called me tonight and they said, Kirk, we want you to coach linebackers. I'd be like, and we're going to pay you $700,000 to coach linebackers. Like James Laurinaitis has got a club foot and he's out for the season. And we need you to fill in. I'd be like, all right, I'll give it a whirl. I can go watch Andy Casamore highlights and, Matt Wilhelm highlights and see what I can do. But if I get out there and try to coach those guys, it'll be like Al Washington. Like when Al Washington coached the linebackers, it was as bad as I've ever seen. Why? Because Al Washington was a big fat guy. There's a defensive tackle who played at Boston College as a defensive tackle. He wasn't good enough to play in the NFL. And he's a guy that's bounced around because he's got charisma. He's an energy guy. So he was running backs coach. He was a linebackers coach. But he needs to be a D-line coach because that's all he knows how to coach. Like when he was coaching the linebackers, we had the worst linebacker play in school history because he doesn't know the position. He doesn't know how to coach the position. And it was atrocious. So Stan as a running backs coach, I think he'd be okay. Again, leaving Temple, which is a school that he had a lot of success at, and he's familiar with that area. Because I want to see who was at Villanova with Brian Westbrook, the great Eagles running back. That was kind of one of his early gigs that he had. But again, that's why when you have idiotic athletic directors like Martin Jarmond at UCLA promote a running backs coach like Deshaun Foster to be a head coach, it just proves how there are people that are just absolutely idiotic that run college football, and they'll hire people that have no business making decisions to do anything, and honestly should probably be flipping burgers at McDonald's because that's how talentless they are. But they'll put them in positions of power because they're smooth talkers and they fool the right people. And then they'll make some idiotic hire like hiring a running backs coach to be a head coach. And it always ends up being like the Hindenburg. And I sit there and I'm just like, God bless. I need to start a consulting firm to tell these idiots, look, hire somebody that actually knows what they're doing. Someone that has a clue. If you've never coordinated an offense or a defense before, how are you going to coordinate an entire team? And again, of all the positions that you should never hire to be a head coach, it'd be like hiring a tight ends coach or a running backs coach to be your head coach. It's the easiest coaching job on the entire staff. So you don't want that guy to be your next head coach. But really stupid people like Martin Jarmond, they do that. And it ends up being an absolute disaster. And I sit there and I'm just like, how would anybody ever hire that guy? What a clown show. But I think Stan would be okay. He'd be probably my third or fourth choice. Again, he's already been here, done that. I don't know how excited he'd be to just come back as a straight running backs coach. Because when you're hiring a guy as a head coach at the D1 level, making 2.5, does he really want to come back and just be a straight running backs coach, or does he want to be the running game coordinator, or does he want more of a prominent title? That's the only thing I'd be skeptical of with Stan. With Eddie, it makes more sense because Eddie, he'd double his salary if he came to Ohio State. He'd learn from Chip Kelly, learn from Ryan Day. But Stan would be taking a major haircut, probably $1.5 million at least. to come back. So it wouldn't make sense. Would he be okay? Sure. Is Stan as good as he was under Urban Meyer? No, it's not even close. Like if Stan worked for Urban Meyer, because Urban forced guys to work, and Stan, when he did have Urban Meyer, he didn't work like that. So that's just my opinion. But I'd love to get Gillespie, even though he seems like he might be a little bit tougher now. But that's my opinion on Stan. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, look, on Stan, you have to remember, Stan grabbed the ring and he's got the head coaching job, but nobody's going to be lining up to hire Stan Drayton after what's gone on at Temple. I think they were like 1-9 last year or whatever it was. So his life as a head coach is over. So the big days of the sitting in the big room with the $2.5 million salary and stuff, like he knows that's over. So this is all about life beyond 2024 and what he's going to do. And he knows that he's going to have to be a position coach somewhere. So I would think that for him to look at it, Ohio State and kind of go, better to get out on my terms. Maybe you negotiate a buyout with Temple because you're going to get fired. That's what's going to happen. How this is how that story ends. And then that Ohio State job might not be open when you're there. So maybe this is a good job. Maybe this is a good time for him to do it. Would he be my first choice? Wouldn't be my first choice, but I think he's done a nice job. I liked what he did at Texas. I mean, I like what he's done. I mean, I like the kind of work that he's done in the past. I respect it, and frankly, anybody's better than Alford. Anybody is better than Alford. I think our recruiting the past 9 years has been absolutely mid at the running backs position. So whoever we get is going to be an upgrade. Stan wouldn't hurt my feelings. I wouldn't be upset if it was Stan Drayton. Do I think we can do better? Yeah, probably. But again, I don't think that's not a bad alternative. And I know it's a live one. I know those conversations are real. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, and again, it's late in the game. This is the thing about Tony. So everybody's like sucking up. Oh, Tony Alford. Oh, what a great human being. I'm like, this is like the end of the cycle. Like all the good guys have already chosen jobs. So this isn't like open season where everyone's looking for jobs. There's a lot of guys that might have considered the job, but they're already have relocated and picked a spot. So the timing's terrible. And Stan Drayton did that on purpose, which again, it's his prerogative, again, because everyone wants to say how great of a guy he was. Well, he threw up the double middle fingers to Ryan Day, the program, his room. And I know, again, Trey Henderson gave him a big hug and a kiss and, whatever, but that's fine. Again, that's this generation. I think Trey's a great kid. He's very religious, but like if my position coach goes to Michigan, I'm not, oh coach, I love you so much. Thank you for everything you've ever done. Give you a big hug and a big kiss, big body slam, whatever. That's not how I roll, but I don't know. It's gonna be real interesting. Paul Lewis, thank you for the 100. Appreciate you, brother. You did this way early in the chat, so thank you so much. Hi guys. Kirk getting jet plane deals. Cash cars. How could these potential detractors affected your goals? Well, for me personally, as an adult now, and I've done well. I've got an MBA. I work really hard, really, really hard. I think it adds fuel to my fire. Like I like having stuff that can take care of my kids. I've got 2 kids. I've got one on the way. I got stuff that can take care of my wife. My wife can kind of work as she wants to now. And it's not an accident. So if I had cash and cars and more money when I was in college, it honestly would have made me work harder because I want to have a certain quality of life and I want to make sure that my family's taken care of. And if anything happens to me, they're good. So I think that's my motivation. Now I know that the reaction to a lot of people is if you get now, again, if I hit the Powerball and I get $500 million, will that change? Of course. I'm not going to be, on the ground, but to get the amount, these guys are getting money, but it's not like life-ending money. And by life-ending money, it's like, you get you get some Powerball jackpot for $500 million and you just put it in an account and draw off the interest for the rest of your life. That's not the kind of money these guys get. They get, maybe, they might get $1 million. And again, $1 million is incredible, fantastic, wild, nutty money. But these guys can't live for the rest of their lives on that. There's no chance. So these guys have, they get a little shot of cash, which is great. Take care of the family a little bit, maybe help mom out, help dad out, whoever. Be able to buy fruits and vegetables and stuff. Again, these guys, the diet thing is something that is always understated with Ohio State because these guys have a great nutrition plan, which our nutrition when I played was trash. It was terrible. But I think that when these guys get a little bit more bread, it's like these guys they could do a little better. Again, it would motivate me because I would want to make sure I can take care of people, make sure I can have a standard of living. But I know that for some of these guys, they go in the tank. And again, that's the thing where it's no different than the NFL draft. The NFL draft, the hardest part about being a general manager is you have to evaluate these kids, and when you hand them a check for $38 million or whatever when they're first round pick as a number 1 overall pick, how does that change them? Will they still want to work? Will they still want to work out? Or is it like they've arrived and they cashed the lottery ticket and it's over? Because again, I played with guys that were like that. I played against guys like the guy I played against from LSU went 3rd overall in the draft, Tyson Jackson. Look him up. We played against each other my senior year. He sucked. He went to the NFL, got a monstrous check. He fooled the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave him this humongous deal, and it was ridiculous how bad he was. And I didn't think he was good. Like when he went 3rd overall, I was like, I would fire everybody in that organization if I was Clark Hunt, the owner of the team. But that's me. But it doesn't really affect me. Nevada, from your perspective as a guy who's owned teams and you've drafted players and you've developed players and you've worked from junior hockey to minor leagues to professional level. What's your reticence when there's endorsements like a jet plane deal, cash cars, whatever? Because you've seen it all. How's it affected guys that you've seen get those types of deals?
Well, I think you covered pretty well the whole change the life, change the motivation thing. The two things that I would say that probably don't get thought about enough in this situation is one, the distraction part of it. And, by that, I just mean, when you get that money, it's not so much that you want to stop working, you want to do it, but just when you have stuff as opposed to not having stuff, you just have so many more opportunities. There's so many opportunities to kind of lead you off the path and keep you from, kind of keeping your head down and keeping your eye on the prize and working on team goals. And the second is how it distracts other guys in the locker room and the whole pocket, watching and counting each other's money and doing that. And that's the thing that I really, really worry about, especially in college football locker rooms where you've got such a divide of have and have nots. I mean, you've got some guys on the OSU team that literally don't get anything, that absolutely do not get anything. And then you have other guys that are rolling up, a couple $1,000,000, rolling up in the Range Rover and the luxury apartment and stuff. And, at least in the NFL, you've got an NFL minimum where, a guy's going to have to gut it out, making only making $850,000 a year or whatever it is. I mean, everybody's rich in the NFL, but in college football, man, you've really got to divide. And it's also a recent kind of development. So it didn't used to be this way where it was this bad, this pronounced. So I just worry about the distraction side of it. I worry about the impact on things. And we've talked about it ad nauseum, but when you bring in a guy like a Victor Cutler and he gets $300,000 or whatever he's going to get and he can't play, I just wonder about how the other guys that are kind of buried on the depth chart at Ohio State on the offensive line feel about that. When they look at that and they're kind of going, I get nothing. I committed to Ohio State out of high school. I'm a player. I can kind of do this. This guy waltzes in from Louisiana Tech, gets $300,000, does nothing for a year, and then waltzes on out. That would not sit well with me, and I think that those are the issues I think you got to watch out for.
Yeah, I think that the pocket watching is a major issue. That's something you have to guard when you're a coach. Again, it's they bring in guys that suck, guys that can't play. There's a class like that 3rd-year class right now. They've probably got the fewest amount of NIL deals because a lot of them haven't played. They were kind of right after NIL became a thing. So the last 2 classes have gotten money. Guys like JJ Smith show up, Ennis Tate, they're getting money as soon as they show up. But the entire schism between the guys that get paid as soon as they get here and the guys that don't is interesting because every freshman has to live in the dorms, right? So JJ Smith has to live in the dorms, Cedric Hawkins has to live in the dorms, James Peoples has to live in the dorms. However, when some of these guys show up, they have their dorm room, which is assigned to them. And then they also have, a luxury apartment also paid for by a collective. So, a guy like JJ Smith, he'll walk into that dorm about 3.5 seconds. He says, "Nope, you take me to that downtown luxury apartment, multiple bedrooms, beautiful furnishings, private, gated parking lot for your Range Rover or your Dodge Hellcat thing or whatever." And that's startling, because again, I was in the NFL. I was at the bottom of the food chain. I was a practice squad guy my second year. Man, I was on the same team as Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson's making $20 million a year. I was making, good money, like 6-figure money, but I ain't no 20 million. But I was still making 6-figure money, which is great. It's amazing. It's incredible. So, I wasn't starving to death. I wasn't scraping the bottom of the barrel. But at Ohio State, there's guys that are making, 6-7 figures in dough. And then there's kids that just get their scholarship checks, which is kind of, it's not anywhere near as bad as it used to be because they've upped it with the cost of attendance. And plus, with all the food that they give these kids now, these kids really don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. So that's a huge expense that's kind of alleviated. So you don't have that. The floor isn't nearly as high as it is when you're an NFL player. So that's something that I worried about, because some of these kids, they're like, man, I'd like to be able to fly my mom up every weekend like some of these guys can, or I'd like to be able to fly back home to Miami every weekend like some of these guys can. But that's not reality. That's just, again, it's these guys are figuring out that the fair market system in the United States applies to them. And some of these guys don't have a lot of value. They think that they have the same amount of value, but when they get on that open market, it ain't really the same. Some guys are a lot more desirable from a PR standpoint. Show of Steelworks Shop, my man. Go Bucks. Thank you for the deuce. Thank you for Scoop Box. Good to see y'all. You guys follow my boy. Got my knife right here. If you guys want a really cool gift for a birthday, anniversary, again, if you're like my wife who wants to kill me half the time, Kim, get her a big fat knife so she can chase me around the house like she's Norman Bates, or she's like Mother from Psycho. But again, Show of Steel Workshop, awesome dude. Devin, who is Ohio 7715, ordered a sword from him. So we have a sword, a Buckeye Scoop sword being made. Thanks to Devin. Appreciate you, brother. But follow my dude on Facebook. He does great videos and stuff teaching you how to be a blacksmith, which, again, I didn't know that was a thing, but it is pretty cool. It's like Game of Thrones, except it's real life. So I appreciate you, brother, as always. Josh Dillon. Oh, boy. Thanks for the 5. Oh, boy. Thy band hammer is coming for scum. Yes, it is. Shout out to all my Central Florida Buckeye fans. Much love from Lakeland, Ohio. Home of the Pounceys. Is that the Argonauts? I can't remember what the school is, but Lakeland, Florida has got some serious talent. I think we had Raquan Southward was from Lakeland. He stunk. But Lakeland had the 2 Pounceys and maybe Jeff Demps, I think, who went to Florida, and they're all really good at Florida. We don't get any of the good players from Lakeland, but it'd be nice to. But they've got serious football down there. Nevada, do you agree that the band hammer is coming for scum?
No, there's no doubt. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt. And I think it's an open question of how bad. Is it going to be like catastrophically Category 5 hurricane, or is it only going to be like Category 4.99? But no, it's going to be bad. And but the punishment always fits the crime. You get what you deserve, and they're going to get what they deserve. And I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I absolutely totally agree. Donald and Karen Rossback, thanks for being a Scoop Ultra Mimic for the 5. Did Juwan Howard have anger issues in the NBA too? Nevada OH.
I
feel like he did. I feel like he was in a fight. The hardest part about Juwan is if you Google that, all that pops up is all the trash that he's done in the last couple years. Like when he told the one coach he's going to kill him. And I mean, he's just such an idiot. It's just it's unbelievable. But I feel like he did something in the NBA where he got suspended. But he was again, like I said, he's a thug, but he's the first guy in NBA history to sign a $100 million contract. He signed with the Miami Heat. Yeah, but I mean, he was a turd. I mean, everybody knew that he was a turd. And he just is like a mega turd. I mean, to get fired by your alma mater when you're probably one of the 5 best players in school history, you have to be a dumb scumbag, and he is. But yeah, he always had anger issues, but he played I mean, he played, God bless, 20 years in the league almost. He played from 94 to 13. So, 18, 19 years, whatever that is. Then he was an assistant at Miami for another 7 years. And then he became head coach of Michigan in 19. But yeah, I mean, he's a turd. I mean, the weird thing is like he made a fortune in the NBA. He only made the All-Star team once, and he played 20 years. So it's kind of one of those interesting conundrums as to why he got paid so much. But sometimes it just kind of is what it is. Jeremy Moreland, thank you for the 5. Thank you for Biggest Scoop Ultra member as well. So can we put some sanctions times the NCAA before the spring game? I want Alford to realize he chose wrong, and the Boy Scouts be punished. I don't think there's any changing Tony Alford. I don't think Tony Alford's very smart. He never has been. Again, I have stuff that would bury Tony Alford, but I don't feel like doing it because of who it involves. But I think he'll realize it once we smack him in November. But again, it's a character thing, Nevada. Your thoughts? Do you think that Tony Alford will realize he chose wrong, or do you think that he's just simply in it for the money?
Well, I think the first part of what you said was that he's just not very smart, and he doesn't care about sanctions. He doesn't care about anything else. This was an FU. This was not about. I'm telling you, this was not about money. When you consider the fact that Ohio State coaches get a 15% bonus on top of his $700,000 for just making a bowl game, that his salary was $800,000. So this wasn't even money. So they say, oh, the extra 2 years. He hasn't been out of a job for 30 years. Parker Fleming can make $500,000 a year. So you're telling me a coach that's coached for 30 years in a row, that is, the last 9 years has been at Ohio State, isn't going to be able to find a job? No. It's really simple. It was an FU to Ryan Day. It was an FU to Ohio State at the worst possible time. Because like I said, it's during spring football. It's during a time when guys have re-upped, when there's not a plethora of guys available. So, I mean, he screwed us. He just did. And so to hear people fawning all over him, or I wish him well, and I wish him that he wins every game except for one. I mean, I just want to vomit when I hear that. And no, Tony didn't hurt me personally. I just think he's a scumbag. And I would say if Tony was standing right there, I'd say, Tony, it's a scumbag move, dude. Just a scumbag move. But yeah, he's not here, so all I can do is say it on this podcast. And maybe someday I'll get a chance to say it to him in person, and that would be beautiful. I would love that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a scumbag and turncoat. I mean, again, he's a guy that, was at spring practice. And then if he goes anywhere else, I mean, there's 200 jobs he could take that you could probably make pretty good money at. And he picked the only school that we'd have a problem with because he doesn't care. He's spineless. He's gutless. On the heels of the cheating scandal, it's just amazing that he would actually go to Michigan. But hey, some guys are soulless, and he's one of them. D-Jack, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. Haven't heard much about Adam Petito's potential influence on getting Gillespie. Has to be a potentially huge factor, right? I think that Ryan would talk to him about Gillespie, but I don't think he's a huge factor. Again, it's always good if you have a guy working for you who has kind of the goods on somebody that you're potentially interviewing. Because again, like if I'm Ryan, I'm sitting across from Adam Petito and say, tell me everything about Robert Gillespie, Tell me everything. I want the bad, the good, the warts. Like, don't just give me sunshine and rainbows. Give me the truth. Is he a worker? Is he lazy? Is he a good recruiter? Because again, Adam Petito was kind of like their Mark D'Antoni. So he knows, oh yeah, coach, this guy only goes to 2 high schools a day and real lazy, doesn't follow up. He's not good on social media, whatever. Or you can say this guy's excellent. He's a grinder, develops, the players love him, a lot of energy, big value add guy, huge recruiting monster, huge in the South. I mean, so yeah, I think he'd be very valuable, but I don't think that like Gillespie would come here because of him. But I think for Ryan doing diligence and really it's Ryan and Chip Kelly doing diligence. Those are the 2 guys making this hire. And when you have a guy in the building who's been around the guy, because I'd ask Seth McLaughlin too. I'd ask Caleb Downs, hey, what'd you think of this guy? And now are they gonna have any say in the hiring? No. But if you've got 3 guys in the building who were at Alabama and they're around this guy, and and again, he's there's two guys at Alabama that get retained. He's one of them, and the D line coach is the other one. Like I would want to be like, well, he was good enough to get retained by a whole new coaching staff. Why is it? Was he great? Probably. So I don't want to get as much information as he could about the guy. Nevada, your thoughts on Adam Petito having influence on getting Gillespie, and your thoughts on that?
No, I think you nailed it. I think Adam, would be and has been a great, source of input to Ryan Day on this about, what he's all about, and especially his work ethic. And I think that's one of the reasons why they went after him. So I mean, I know, or I should say, I'd heard one of the first things is that they'd gone to him and that he'd give him like a ringing endorsement. And I think I'm not saying that's the reason they went after him, but I'm sure it's part of the reason that they went after him is that he got such a ringing endorsement from Adam. Who would know? I mean, he being a guy to uniquely, evaluate his recruiting chops and recruiting. I mean, that is what Ryan Day prizes above all else. I mean, coaching competence is kind of, you're just assumed that you've got to have that. That may or may not be a good assumption, but recruiting chops is where it's at. And Adams out for Gillespie's all over the place. Said, terrific recruiter, A+ guy, and I think that's why they went after him so hard and continue to go after him as hard as they are, is based upon Adams' recommendation and endorsement.
Yep, totally agree. Andre Duke, thanks for being a Scoop Ultra member. Thank you for the 10 as well. Think Tony's been shady the entire time he's been at Ohio State. I agree. Not a big Tony Alford fan. I know a lot about that guy that I didn't want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about because of who it would burn, but it wasn't good. And he's not very smart. And I see that to his face. And I think he's a scumbag. So, and then, it's funny when you think someone's a scumbag and you tell people the guy's a scumbag and then they do something like that. Proves you're right. Nevada, your thoughts. Has Tony been shady the entire time he's been at Ohio State?
Well, you and I both know that that's true, and you and I know what that's about. And like I said, we're going to leave that there for now. But I think all head assistant coaches, and I think college football, shady to me. I'm not saying it's a badge of honor, but I think everybody's a little shady in college football. It's a business that there's nobody that's lily white or super clean or whatever it is. So I'll trade competence and I'll trade development chops and I'll trade intelligence and common sense, even if a guy's a little bit shady. But I think for Tony, we went through the chart yesterday. The recruiting, it wasn't our opinion that his recruiting was bad. His recruiting was objectively horrible when you look at it over his 9 years. And then when you mix in on top of that the just bonehead decisions of Trey Sermon deserves to, or excuse me, Master Teague deserves to play over Trey Sermon. Master Teague deserves to play over Trey Henderson. I mean, when you put those in the mix along with mediocre recruiting, you just know that this guy's just not it. I've been on that train for a very long time. That predates Michigan by years and by thousands of posts on the message board. So anybody who's been following me knows my feelings on Tony Alford. But this just kind of cinched it. Yeah, shady, not very intelligent, and I'm glad he's gone.
Yep. It says all you need to know. Tora, what's up, Akeem? Thanks for the 10. Thanks for being a wrench brother, my dog. Also, thank you for being an Ultra member and being our lead moderator along with Devin. Appreciate you, brother. This is great. Oh, my God. I'm surprised he didn't do like because like with you could do like the big one and like have like list every name in the entire chat, but you listed a bunch of them here. So shout out to Kirk, Nevadabuck, Donald Karen, Josh Cahoot, Expedition Greg, SC Buckeye, Asian Posh, aka Doreen, 76 Steely, Ohio 7715, aka Devin, along with Cujo the Raccoon. So there's Cujo, Paul Lewis, Sean Rollins, Coconut Dreams, Steel Shove, Buckeye Blitz, Daryl Starp, Kim Barton. Great job. I appreciate that, Akeem. I don't know if you had to type all those out or if you had those on a file somewhere, you could copy and paste it, but that's awesome. So appreciate you, brother. As always, you're the best. I don't think you left anybody out. Speaking of that, here's somebody you didn't leave out. Donald Karen Rossback, thank you for the 5. Thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member. There's another one from Tora. I love it. So the Benedict Alford took the playbook with him to Michigan. Cannot see how he could have. Nevada OH.
IO.
Well, the playbook is digital now, so they don't really. I mean, they might have a couple of play sheets, but most teams run the same plays. And I mean, if you want to get another team's playbook, you can. So that's not going to be a huge edge. And again, Chip probably did like the first. He literally did 2 days worth of install, so it's not going to be the whole thing. I don't think that's a big deal at all, honestly. And I've been going off on Tony Alford, but he might have taken a couple pamphlets to Michigan. I'm sure he did, but that's not going to make or break us when we play those guys. Nevada, your thoughts on that?
No, that was put out by another website talking about how they were racing to turn off his IT thing. And it's like, dude, that's done at every company with every person that ever leaves anywhere in the world. That is not exactly breaking news. So no, I wouldn't worry about that at all. But before I get off topic there, I want to say we've got a huge crowd on our Twitter live right now. I just want to tell you guys, if you want to participate in the show, come over to YouTube. You can participate. You can be part of the cast of characters there with Akeem and Devin and everybody else here. You can also super chat and you can ask questions. So if you're on the Twitter stream, which is awesome, come over to YouTube. You get a more full participation mode here and a perfect experience. But we appreciate you guys watching wherever you're watching. But back to this, yeah, no, Alford sucks, but I don't think he took off with the playbook or any. They track all that stuff electronically. They've got a really good way of looking at anything that was downloaded or anything like that. And I haven't heard anything that's even an issue.
I mean, as soon as he leaves, his phone's turned off, his emails are deleted. They use the same. Again, I was there. I mean, I worked at Ohio State, so when I was done at Ohio State, I had the server on my phone and on my iPad. It gets remotely deleted. As soon as your phone or your iPad connects to the internet, it all gets deleted. So unless you want to stay offline for the rest of your life on your phone or your iPad, as soon as you connect to any sort of internet, everything gets deleted. So I'm not worried about that. They have the same infrastructure as most businesses. I mean, a lot of you guys are in business. You guys work for wherever. And if you leave or switch companies, like your corporate email manually gets deleted by the IT staff. And it's not like they don't need to have your phone in front of them. They just literally do it. As soon as you connect to the internet, you're deleted. So not a big deal. Not worried about that at all. Tora, thanks for the 10. I knew you had more. Thank you for being ultra member. Thanks for being a wrench brother with Devin. And there are more. Thanks for the 10. Shout out to Buckeye Chuck, 82. Odysseus, 2002. Doug Tipton, you drink it. SC Buckeye, Buckeye Bliss, Buckeye 13. And anyone I've missed, you're the best, Tora. Seriously, you're the absolute best. I'm glad you wrote that anyone that you missed so that nobody could be upset about you. You could have just wrote etc. But I appreciate you, Kim. You're the absolute best. Appreciate you, bro. Dace Burton, thank you for the 5. What's up, Kirk in Nevada? Love the show. First super chat, but I've been watching for about 10 months. Wow, that's amazing. Shout out to the Wrench Assassins, my boys. Fun fact, the show is 10 times better. Laugh out loud. Thank God it's Friday. I'm just telling you, like, the Wrench Assassins get a lot of love. I tell them how much I love them, but they make the chat nice and clean, nice and fun. No haters, no idiots, no Michigan fans. They get beat over the head with a wrench, and their day is over for eternity. So those guys do a fantastic job doing what they do. But yeah, I appreciate you, Dace. Thank you. I hope that you will be chiming in. That's a great first super chat. So appreciate you, brother. Well, Nevada, the basketball season is over, correct? There's no chance we make the tournament after tonight, correct?
That is correct. It is the dream is dead. There is, I mean, is there a chance? Sure, but I think it's mathematically by every algorithm we are not going to make the tournament, and that's a shame. That it really is a shame because that was a fun team to watch. They battled hard. They played hard. Fun team. Enjoyed it. Would have liked to have seen more.
Your boy Aaron Rodgers got Tyron Smith as his left tackle, so that's pretty good. He just signed a 1-year deal. It's really good. Tyron's a great dude. Do you think that Diebler deserves the head coaching job in Nevada?
Do I think he deserves the head coaching job? Well, I've talked to people on the search committee, and let me just tell you, I think the thing that they're shocked about is that they thought there was going to be more widespread interest in the head coaching job at Ohio State. And I think they're kind of, I wrote this down on the thing. They said they were taken aback that there wasn't more, guys lining up to take the job. And I think it's the nature of the Ohio State basketball job right now. I think it's the nature of where we are given our facility. I think it's just the nature of college basketball. And so, given that set of facts, I mean, ordinarily I would say no way, no way you can go with a guy like you. No way you can kind of do that. But maybe you do, and maybe you have him on a contract that's kind of a show me, and you see what he can do. I don't know how that affects recruiting. I don't know how that affects other things. But one thing's for sure, he got those guys playing defense. He got those guys to buy in, and if you can't get Dusty May, if you can't get somebody that's a little bit more established, I mean, guys have got to start somewhere. So I know it's kind of a wishy-washy answer, but I just think that there's just not a lot of people lining up to take the job. It's not like the Ohio State football job where you'd have just about every coach wanted to grab that ring. In Ohio State basketball, it's a great program. It's kind of a sleeping giant, but there's a lot of good programs in basketball. A lot of places you can go and you can win. So for my money, I think Diebler's as good a choice as any, and I might just give him a chance. And that's crazy talk coming from me because I would have never considered that a few weeks ago. But he made kind of a believer out of me in these last stretch. I know it's small sample size, but I really like the way we were playing.
Yeah, I mean it's stunning, and it shows how much coaching matters, especially in college football, college basketball. Man, you get a wild deal like that, all of a sudden you're like they fire Chris Holtman and they show life. They went 6-2 down the stretch and showed they were a totally different outfit. And if they there's always the what if you did it mid season a little bit earlier, could they have made a run? Maybe. I don't know. I mean they played stupid basketball tonight. Obviously the refs weren't great. But when you have guys taking terrible fouls at the end of the game, I mean you can't expect to win when you play stupid basketball, which is again, I played basketball long time, instead of moving screen with like a minute to go in the game, I'm just like, in what universe could you think you could just bulldoze a guy and not get an offensive foul? I mean, it's just, I don't know. But again, that's part of high-end sports. Like if you play high-level sports, it's a lot of times about what you do and the mistakes you make or don't make. And, that's what makes it ugly. Well, Nevada, I think we can wrap this thing up. Good Friday night show. A little bit late for the folks, but we appreciate you guys kicking on this. Final thoughts on the Michigan watch, in addition to the basketball season coming to a close. Muted, my G. He's out of here, so I think I might just wrap this up if he doesn't get back in here. I apologize for that. I'll just wrap this. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you for kicking it on your Friday night. As always, we appreciate you guys so much. If you guys are interested in our merchandise, repthescoop.com. We added a T-shirt yesterday. It's very, very high end, very high quality. So we are going to be representing the day of the spring game. If you guys are bored, the morning of at Buffalo Wild Wings, we're going to be bringing the heat with some really nice outfits or a really nice gathering. Excuse me 1 second. A really nice gathering at Buffalo Wild Wings, 9 a.m. early to 11:30, leading into the Ohio State spring game. It'll be fantastic. Again, love to see you guys. And there are people flying in for it, so it's going to be exceptionally fun. I'll be there the entire time. We'll have giveaways. We'll have some really nice gear to give away to some people. We'll do raffles, prizes, maybe a trivia contest. I think it'll be really fun. So I'd love for you guys to show up. Buffalo Wild Wings, Lane and High, April 13th, 9 a.m. to 11:30 before the spring game. So I'd love to see you. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, those are all huge for growing our channel. Our channel is almost at 30,000. Crazy. It's nuts to think about it, but we're very lucky. We're blessed to have such a great following, so we thank you guys each and every night. Torah is coming in at the buzzer, my boy. I love this. Tora, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 50. And also thank you for being an Ultra member. Thank you also for being the Wrench brother, the king of the castle. My dude, Kirk, super chat is for you in Nevada, from me and Devin, saying thank you for making me, Devin, a part of your family, showing us so much love. It's actually unreal that you let us moderate the chat. Love and respect. Akeem, you guys changed the game for us because, again, for those of you who don't know, this is a bond pop operation. So I got my wife moderating. We had to find a few good men to help keep that chat clean. I found two of the best men on earth in Akeem and Devin. Those guys do unbelievable work. They're very prideful. They're here every night. They work really hard. Those are my guys. That's my goon squad right there. So take care of my boys. Give them love. Because they keep you guys nice and clean in the chat. So Akeem, I appreciate you. You have a humongous heart. One of the greatest people I've ever got to know. So I appreciate you, brother, as always. But again, thank you to Devin. Thank you to Akeem. And also thank you to Cujo, who's Devin's raccoon. Appreciate you guys so very, very much. That being said, as always, I hope you guys had a great Friday. Appreciate you guys so very much, as always. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. If you guys want gear, wrapthescoop.com. We've got about 6 days left in our gear drop, so go check it out. Get you some nice swag for you and the family because the stuff is very high quality. You guys will love it. That being said, thank you so much. You guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.